Uh, that's a good question. I don't think there's any one answer because you don't know who you're going to run up against in terms of who you're going to ask. I think that the best approach is to start off very logical and don't make threats. Explain the situation. Explain why you need the drug or the treatment. Explain why you can't afford it. What's going on that is keeping you from obtaining the treatment from in the normal course of things. And sometimes you have to tell somebody that if your child dies or if you die, it's on their shoulders. There's another instance that I was involved in trying to obtain a drug for a kid that had been battling cancer for 4 years, and he had a bone marrow transplant as part of his treatment. And a lot of kids develop an infection after bone marrow transplant called the adenovirus. And he was being treated at St. Jude. Well, his doctors had done a clinical trial of a drug that they knew would most likely give him about an 80% chance of wiping out the virus if he took the drug. And his doctors also knew that if he did not get the drug, he was probably going to die within about 2 weeks. Well, the drug company that was manufacturing the drug is a very small company in North Carolina. It was the only drug that they were manufacturing. They had previously given the drug through the compassionate use channels, which basically very quickly, it's very complex, but essentially if you want a drug and it's not FDA approved for your condition, your doctor writes a letter to the drug manufacturer and submits an application to the FDA. The FDA 99% of the times says, okay, you want it, go for it. It's the drug manufacturer ultimately that decides whether or not they're going to give the drug, because there's a cost to the drug manufacturer and there's other issues for considerations. In this case, though, the drug manufacturer created it once they had the drug in a phase 3, which is the end. Basically, they saw the finish line. They saw the goal line of getting this drug FDA approved. And they were also going to get a contract from the U.S. government for using it for the military. There was going to be a lot of money at the end of it. They said no more giving the drug in compassionate use. So what happened is the foundation that I work for, the Max Cure Foundation, the vice chairman is a former trial lawyer and started out very kind, very nice. Look, we're trying to get the drug. And as they kept saying no and no and no, the CEO, came back and said, look, we can't do it. It's going to cost us money. So he said, okay, how much money do I have to raise? And he said $50,000. Well, my organization put out a huge social media campaign and within 3 days had like 1.5 million social media hits. It had pledges of up to $250,000 to get this drug. The CEO said, nope, we're not going to do it. Even though you raised the money, we're so close to the finish line. Ultimately, the pressure that the CEO was under from the social media campaign, including death threats, his family had to be hidden by the FBI and protected, which I'm not suggesting make death threats by any means. Ultimately, he worked with the FDA to create a phase 3 clinical trial written basically for this one kid, and they flew the drug down to Memphis and wiped out the virus, and the kid lived. That's another extreme instance of, where it goes from a very level point to, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. All depends.